Commodity TV live from the Mines and Money London 2022, and we now have here a very special company out of Australia. And with me here is Alex Scanlon, the Managing Director of Barton Gold. Alex, welcome to London.
Thank you for having us.
How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well, thank you.
How is the audience here at the conference?
Oh, look, it's just the beginning of the conference now, but it seems very busy. So I think it's an encouraging sign for interest in the sector.
Good. So I think it's a really interesting company because you are neither active in Western Australia nor in Queensland, so in the classic mining districts of Australia. You're in South Australia.
Correct.
So that sounds a little bit interesting for me as a German mining investor, because normally we have companies from the west or the east and not from the south. Mm-hmm. So can you give us an insight in the mining industry of South Australia and in your company?
Yeah, look, you make a good point. Most gold explorers and developers in Australia are focused in Western Australia or Queensland, and we actually saw an opportunity looking across the geology of Australia to consolidate a very significant historical region in South Australia. The Central Gawler Craton is a globally recognized geological district, and when we think about South Australia, the mining industry there is best exemplified by Olympic Dam, which is one of the world's most impressive mineral deposits. And then just north of those, Oz Minerals and has the Carrapateena and Prominent Hill projects. So those three projects are very major base metals and uranium producers, and they sit within an IOCG belt. Just to the west of that IOCG belt, there is a long recognized sort of gold district called the Central Gawler Gold Province. And at two ends of the Central Gawler Gold Province, you have the historical Challenger mine and you have the Tunkillia project. In the center, you have the Tarcoola project. Tarcoola was actually the home of South Australia's gold rush in the late 1800s, at the same time as Western Australia's gold rush. So on our project there, on our mining lease, there's over 600 historical workings where the old timers were mining gold by hand at over 1 ounce per ton, so between 30 and 50 grams per ton, just from high-grade quartz veins sticking out of surface. If you fast forward 100 years, there was actually a shallow open pit dug there where they were producing an average of about 3.8 gram per ton using mechanized mining from an open pit, so a very high-grade open pit. As you step out, again, looking at the bookends of these of this district, both the Challenger asset and the Tunkillia asset were discovered within 6 months of one another at the end of 1995 and early 1996. And everybody got very excited about South Australia for about 5 minutes because the gold price then crashed.
Yeah, for sure.
And so this was kind of a perfect storm opportunity where, global gold investment declined dramatically, certainly in Australia. And then in the late 2000s, when the gold price started climbing back up to that critical $800 level, that saw a lot of reinvestment, a lot of development towards 2006, 7, and 8, everybody went back to the ground they remembered. They went back to Western Australia, back to Queensland, and nobody came back to South Australia. So we've come in, we've essentially acquired the substantial majority of all historical producing and exploration ground of note. We've built a 1.1 million ounce resource base on that. We've found 4 new gold zones since establishing those resources. So kind of everything that we touch we're finding more structure and more gold, and we own the only gold mill in the region as well.
Okay. So you have a resource estimate dated from 2012, I believe.
2020 is the latest.
Oh, 2020,
Yeah.
Okay, then my fault. So what are current drilling plans? Do you want to expand the resource, or what is the current status of the? I think it's 2 main projects, is that right?
That's correct. We have 2 brownfield mines, 1 open pit and 1 underground, and we have 2 very large scale exploration projects. And so even though we own a mill, our view is to step back and actually focus on really large scale resource growth. So that's a combination of discovery and resource growth of existing resources. So we are predominantly focused on our Tarcoola and Tunkillia projects. Tarcoola is where you have those high-grade near-surface structures. And Tunkillia was discovered in 1995 and early 96. We upgraded that to a 965,000 ounce resource in October 2020, and then we IPO'd in June 2021. Since our IPO, we've found 3 new gold zones at that project. So we've almost doubled the mineralized strike of the gold mineralization there. And the plan is, build these resources, and then we want to take this forward into a development on a much larger basis to produce around 150,000 ounces per annum or more.
Okay. Would you like to buy more claims around the 2 mines, or?
We've got quite a bit of ground. So we have about 5,000 square kilometers of tenements. And I think we feel that we have probably the best of the most advanced geological knowledge in the region. Certainly there's an opportunity for regional consolidation. There are a number of explorers who've now come in around us and are exploring for gold because they're near our gold mill. So for them, it's an obvious marketing advantage to suggest that they're near a mill. We do obviously look to the future and say we want to be a significant gold producer of our own gold, but obviously there's quite a bit of opportunity to look at either absorbing surrounding mineral claims or working with them, whether it's purchasing ore or just providing toll milling services. And the objective is not only to become a significant gold producer ourselves, but to actually establish really long-term gold leadership in this region. It's an opportunity to essentially establish a dominant long-term position in an entire district. And if we own multiple mills in that district, the vast majority of gold ounces will have to go through our mill, whether we own the ground or not.
Okay. So you already mentioned relatively high grades near surface. So which depth, what do we speak about here?
So at our Tarcoola project, we find mineralization beginning from as shallow as 2 to 4 meters below surface. So South Australia has a layer of cover, which presents an interesting technical challenge for an exploration. We're using a lot of new technology to see through that cover and accelerate exploration. So at Tarcoola, you might have 2 or 4 or 10 meters of cover. And down at Tunkillia, you might have 20 or 30 or 40 meters of cover, where we're using a combination of geophysical techniques and geochemical techniques to identify structure and then target that structure and develop large, continuous mineralization.
So one of the mines is a large pit. Is there any water in it? Do we have to pump out everything, or how is that working?
So in the open pit at Tarcoola, the groundwater inflow is actually very, very low. So South Australia is conventionally a very dry district for mining, especially where we are. And when we think about even our underground mine, the rate of water inflow is extremely low. It's something like 2 liters per second. So it requires very little dewatering, which is quite helpful. On the other side, we actually do have a high availability of water, which is quite positive. And being a gold producer, we can use saline water for our processing. So we don't need to use fresh water, which can sometimes bring stakeholder concerns in the region. So we have water if we need it, but it isn't swamping our operations, which is a nice combination.
Okay. Alex, what's cash in the bank?
We had $10.3 million in cash as of the 30th of September.
Oh, that's I think you can drill much with this 10 million bucks.
Yeah, we're well capitalized. One of our advantages is that a traditional explorer, you raise money, and then your job is to spend money very carefully, right, and hopefully get a very high payoff on that. We're a little bit unusual in that we're actually a very large asset manager. So we own a mill, we own mining villages, we own mining camps. We actually have a lot of really surplus assets that we will never need for our purposes. So we're actually able to dispose of surplus camp and equipment at prices that are actually higher than they were worth new 10 years ago because of this current inflationary environment. So we're sort of carefully disposing of and restocking our capital internally while spending it on exploration. So, we raised $15 million in our IPO almost 18 months ago, and we still have $10.3 million, even though we will have done almost 30,000 meters of drilling. So it's obviously a slightly different advantage to have.
What is the shareholder structure and what is management holding?
So we have about 176 million shares on issue. Today, I think we trade around 16 or 17 cents Australian per share, which would give us a market capitalization of about 25 million Australian and an enterprise value of about 15 million Australian after subtracting cash. Board and management have a very high alignment with shareholders. So board and management actually represent about 1/3 of the share register.
Oh, okay.
So this goes back to the genesis of the company. This was a a clean, fresh incorporation specifically put together to target this strategy. And that we are unique in that respect. And you mentioned the question of South Australia. As we can see on the Australian Securities Exchange, we're the only pure play gold, pure play South Australia company of significance. So it is a very unique profile in many respects.
Okay, to summarize everything, what will be the most important catalyst for the next, let's say, 12 months?
Going back to your drilling question, following the announcement of those 3 new gold zones at Tunkillia, in early September, we started a 9,000 meter drilling program. We actually expanded that in October to 12,000 meters, and we've just expanded it again to about 14,000 meters to include diamond drilling as well. So we would expect quite soon, during December, January, February, and early March, to be releasing about 14,000 meters of drilling results. And then at the end of March 2023, next year, we'll be releasing a mineral resource estimate update. From that point, we'll probably look for further resource growth drilling off of that. That will lead us into the commencement of feasibility and development studies at the end of 2023.
Sounds great to me. So Alex, thank you very much for this insight in your terrific company.
Well, thank you.
And keep all fingers crossed for the drilling.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Alex Scanlon, Managing Director of Barton Gold, live here from the mines and money in London. I would say check out the company, do your own research, and bye-bye from London.